Sage, welcome back, bro.
Hey, Mason, thanks for having me again. I've really been looking forward to this.
Yeah, man, it's going to be another beautiful interview, as it always is. Had a lot of great feedback of us talking about our roots in Taoist tonic herbalism in that last pod that we did. And today we're going into ashwagandha, one of the favorite Rasayana herbs, one of the Ayurvedic herbs, also a tonic herb. I know it's a favorite of yours. We've noted out about it a couple of times. I've enjoyed ashwagandha chocolates. I've enjoyed an ashwagandha tonic with you. Looking forward to diving deep today.
Yeah, thanks, Mason. This is one of my favorite herbs. It's one I talk about all the time. You know, we use it in a lot of our different products that we have. And it's just so fascinating how multi-purpose it is and how many different applications it has. You know, with many herbs, they have one or two strengths, and it seems like ashwagandha has more like 12 or 15 really incredible components to it.
It's one of the funny ones. I like it just because it's and funny in such an awesome way. Like what you were saying, like, you know, preparing. I've been taking ashwagandha. I don't know about you. I've been taking ashwagandha for about 8 years. It was one of my staples for the first couple of years. I kind of got first primarily into the shagas and reishis, and then hisha wu to really start building it back up. But ashwagandha came in pretty solidly, and you know, and then you start unraveling. It's got the stigma for being a nervous system tonic. It's you know, slight sedative. Yet it's an aphrodisiac, yet it's not stimulating, yet it restores from adrenal burnout, and it helps with insomnia, and you just go deeper, and yet it's used as one of the primary rejuvenative herbs, and just keep on peeling back and through. And then it's like quite can often be like that in Ayurvedic medicine, and you know, you see similarities in Taoist herbalism where you just you see the praises sung about a herb, and you know, at times you don't know quite how much of that is validated or how much is that is built up. In tonic herbalism, obviously, quite often it's not. But then you start breaking into the studies and the clinical usage of ashwagandha, just completely pretty much going through, like, as you were saying, those 12 or 15 real clinical applications that have some like solid data behind them. And it always just gets me excited, especially with one that's like such a nervine, somewhat of a sedative. I mean, used in India clinically, every time I was looking at Ayurvedic practitioners who are working directly with people who are ill, using it as the antidepressant herb, yet then using it as one of the primary herbs to get the muscle, marrow, and semen count like right up and get the constitution rocking. It's like, it's just one of those herbs that it's just like an absolute no-brainer or harder to bring into your life, right?
That's absolutely right. Hold on one second. I got to make a quick change to the audio setup. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yes, wait. So again, if you do have any questions at this point, come on in, because we're having an audio setup change to get it a little bit more crisp. So for those of you just joining, Sage and I are talking about ashwagandha. It's one of our absolute fave herbs. And I've had a fun morning with speakers breaking and...
All right, that should be much better.
Yeah, sweet. All right, so I'll let you lodge off from that point. So 3, 2, 1, on.
So with ashwagandha, I absolutely agree with you. It's really incredible because just the variety of applications and the amount of science that's been done on them, you know, on these different benefits. You know, a lot of herbs have been shown traditionally to have many different benefits, and it kind of plays out that some are true and some maybe are a little bit more hype than actual reality.
It's fun, like and especially the Taoists like exaggerating with terminology that's more poetic, that's not meant to be exaggerating, but we go, oh my gosh, opening up the jade gate of the dragon, this is incredible.
Yeah, you know, some are described metaphorically, as you say there. But with ashwagandha, there's been so much research on it, so much modern scientific research on such a wide variety of benefits. You could probably walk from head to toe and pretty much every different part of your body. You're not going to travel 6 inches down your body without hitting some body part that ashwagandha is going to be really beneficial for. You know, it's working on the brain. It's so neuroprotective. There was a great study done in 2005 talking about how it regenerates the neurites and regrows the synapses in the brain, especially after there's been damage, for example, from heavy metal toxicity. Then it's improving energy, improving endurance. It's calming you. It's changing the way that we adapt to stress. It has antibacterial effects. You know, it's actually shown to be effective against even something like MRSA, you know, antibiotic-resistant staph, which is a huge problem, especially in hospital settings. And it just goes on and on. You know, it's working on the thyroid, which is a total huge problem in our modern world, that people are having underactive thyroids because of diet and exposure to goitrogens and having too much soy in their diet and exposure to chemicals and things like that. So ashwagandha is really the herb for modern times, I think.
All right, let's go through it a little bit. We're talking about Withania somnific, and that's also called the winter cherry, also called Indian ginseng. And so it's interesting to see that it actually holds that place in Ayurvedic herbalism and Rasayana herbalism, which is kind of like that pinnacle herbalism, which where Ayurveda has really. I don't think it's had as much focus as Taoism has, in terms of it having this sector where they are seeking that physical immortality and that mind-body connection, that psychological enhancement, so that you can really unify with your physical matter, so that you can have this long, healthy life. Now, Rasayanas, when you look at what's the core intention, they go through long-term herbal practice of food-grade herbs. So that's the Rasayanas. That enters the ayana, the essence, the rasa. And so the essence of our physicality, these herbs enter through and they tone the essence and tone that function, so that you can have pure awareness, natural creativity, and spontaneous delight. And so in that sense, and I was like, I love that. And so is that you need to be renewing the brain cells daily, which is like something like psychologically, of course, Ayurveda is like, heavily associated with psychology. And then you start looking at the fact that, they, through the Rasayana usage, they want to be renewing brain cells daily. With ashwagandha, just like happens to come through absolute tenfold. And then you start looking at also that they want the fact that when they get older, the brain and the heart to be as clear in old age as in childhood. So that basically when you start hearing that, you say, right, this is that same intention when it comes to tonic herbalism. And it just kind of makes my heart sing in terms of like a romance of what's going on with these herbs. Of course, we are looking at crossovers. We see in Taoism, you see a high association with Shen. In the Ayurvedic system, you're looking at a high association with psychology, yet we're looking at the same purpose, especially when you look at those three intentions. Again, write them down, guys, because when you're doing long-term herbal practice, pure awareness and presence, natural creativity so you can stay creative and adaptable throughout your life, and spontaneous delight. Of course, we're going to want something like that where we have our benefits and those coming through. Now, ashwagandha is like, it's taking that place of like the king of herbs, even though it is quite yin in its essence. That same position that ginseng has, where its reverence is absolutely insane. That winter cherry, I like using the root, although the berry and the leaf are heavily used in tonic herbalism as well. Now, this is the herb, when you start looking at the meaning, it means that which has the smell of a horse, as it gives the vitality and sexual energy of a horse. I don't know, that was like the first thing I came about, like it was a little quote in ashwagandha, like being
right. That's one of the first things I ever read as well. They give you the meaning. And it's literal and metaphorical in the sense that ashwagandha does have quite an intense smell. It's part of its biology, and it does smell kind of like a nature smell of a horse. But it also is that it's giving you that vigor and vitality and sexual energy of a horse. So lots going on there on two different levels. And just to jump back to what you were saying about the Rasayanas as being, for people who are not familiar with that term, these traditional herbal preparations coming out of the Ayurvedic system. It's so cool to me that the translation of that is path of essence. And we recognize, we of us who are into Taoist tonic herbalism recognize that term essence as being the translation of Jing, that core kidney adrenal energy. So there's such a great crossover between these two, probably the two preeminent ancient herbal systems in terms of systems that actually recorded a lot of their knowledge and their own research throughout, the past couple thousand years. So it's amazing to see that emphasis in both systems going exactly in the same direction.
Yeah, and giving the tip of the hat to like a lot of Taoism was derived from Ayurveda. Ayurveda probably being the more ancient, and it's kind of just it's really nice to see where that this Rasayana Ayurvedic focus on physical immortality. I mean, what's come out in terms of the stigma around yoga is a lot of physical sacrificial practice in order to obtain the tip of the hat from whatever guru or creator to like somewhat prove yourself. I feel like that's been like the branding of yoga, and right now we're seeing the actual essence of yoga coming forth, which when you take away, this is what I want to do. I want to strip away the Taoist terms. I want to, it's useful, but I want to strip away the yogic terms and the Ayurvedic labels and the possibility for us to associate too much with an ideology. And then you get down to the essence of all of these things, which are humans watching nature, uniting with nature, understanding their bodies, so that we can get this unification of our heart's intent, our physical body, and our psychology, so that we can have nice, long, healthy lives, spontaneous joy, consistent creativity and adaptability. And it's I'm pretty stoked to be bringing ashwagandha through. To be honest, just because, as you know, with herbalism, what happens a lot of the time is people will have an issue. They have a problem, they have a pain point, they want to come to a herb in order to help. And I see ashwagandha has been such a great gateway herb for introducing yourself to food grade herbalism, tonic herbalism, rasayanas, where you go, all of a sudden you get on a herb like ashwagandha and it might be you need rejuvenation. It's the ultimate rejuvenating tonic, whether it's in underdeveloping children in the Ayurvedic system, the elderly that are wasting away, muscle that is wasting away, sex hormones that are wasting away, in order to have a rejuvenator to get into the bone marrow, the sinew and muscle, and build back that essence, and also importantly, the function of our organ systems, which we'll get into, so the body can rejuvenate itself. It might have been hypothyroidism, or it might have been a low sperm count or low energy or insomnia that brings people to this herb, but then bam, you're in the possibility of continuing to include this herb in your diet long term, going on and off. People say, can I have it every day? I heard you talk in your stories recently about, well, yeah, look, clinically, that's what they were doing. They were taking ashwagandha every single day, as much from sometimes 3 grams, sometimes 5, sometimes 10 grams in the particular studies a day.
Well, here is actually one of the interesting things is that most of the studies, when you look at herbs like reishi mushroom and a lot of herbs we see from the Chinese system, you'll see doses in the studies commonly of around 3 to 5 grams, as you say. However, what you see a lot more often with ashwagandha is low doses. Interestingly, it doesn't take much. You often see probably the most common dose you come across is 300 milligrams. Which is really amazing. And some of the bigger doses is actually where you see it turn around and become less of a positive experience. Like one of the only negative studies I actually came across was when it had a negative effect on the sexual health of some rats. It decreased their like sexual appetite basically. But when you look at the dose that was given, I believe it was 3 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that's going to work out to be like 150 grams for you as a normal sized person, and it's absolutely insane. So that I just had to share that because it was really crazy. You wonder why they even bother to study at these levels. But
yeah, it's not reasonable. And it's interesting because the one thing with ashwagandha, as you were saying, there's small doses incredibly effective, especially over long periods of time, which is basic tonic herbalism. With a herb like ashwagandha that smells like a sweaty horse, it's almost inbuilt into the root, the cap that you're going to be able to have.
Stops you from taking too much. Yes.
Which is the bomb. And going to the flavor, just so everyone knows, what I'm going to have out soon is my friend Simon Favorito, who's from Our Conscious Kitchen. He's doing a big flavor profile for me. And so I've been having a little chat with him just in order to really go into the intricacies of right, what's going on here? Yes, it's highly astringent, and that's what comes through. My mind goes, oh, but it's pungent. There's pungency in
right,
China.
A lot of pungency.
And there is in that Chinese system, and in that Ayurvedic system, and probably more associated with the palate of the West. It's real astringency, backed up with a bunch of bitter, but then also a whole lot of sweetness coming through. And so then you kind of it's very rooty. It almost has a little essence of maltiness. That little bit of sweetness can come through with particular spices, especially Ayurvedic spices. And especially I know this isn't going to be very body ecology approved, but in that Ayurvedic system, honey, milk, ashwagandha, spices, you actually find that you're able to actually bring out the sweetness and neutralize some of those sweaty horse.
Yeah, and it's actually in the Ayurvedic system, they talk about how if you're having it with some form of sugar, it will have more of a cooling effect, whereas ashwagandha on its own is somewhat of a heating herb. And if you are of a pitta, fiery constitution, it can actually exacerbate that if you do it too much.
And this is one other thing I've found as well, like absolutely pitta. I've got a bunch of people who have in the workplace that have been using it, who, especially you watch the pittas, including myself, not need a lot. I especially find it very useful at night. Otherwise, I can almost find it too calming, which goes to show that I don't find it too calming. As a tonic herb, it's taking me in the direction, whether I like it or not, that I need to be, which is feeling my tiredness, feeling that I might be hitting it. And that's what I've had to say to a couple of, a couple of people in the business who are like, I'm so mellow. It's like, well, they're like in the warehouse needing to hit it. And I'm like, well, great. You probably should also leave some space in your life to really feel that tiredness that's coming through, or that mellowness that's coming through from the ashwagandha. And I realize that there's like a lot of executives and people who like go and take ashwagandha for that power and be imbued with the power of the horse. Entrepreneurs, I know they take out a nootropics blend because they're like, oh, I want to go get it, crush it. And sometimes it doesn't have that effect. The brain's like, great, in order to match that intention, in ashwagandha's instance, rejuvenate my sexual fluids, rejuvenate to the capacity where I can grow back muscle and bone marrow. In order to do that, we need the nervous system to be here in this rest and digest phase in order to go forth and match that intention. And so that's where tonic herbs and these herbs, learning their personality, forming a close bond and relationship, and realizing you're engaging in a practice where you're going to get feedback. It's not just going to simply bend to you. You can go and use stimulants and synthetic smart drugs if that's the direction you want to be going in. However, when it comes to living tonic herbs, you're probably not going to get that same effect. Just wanted to throw that out there. What you mentioned about pitta, traditionally, those people that have an amazing long-term effect are those who with the Vata constitution, in terms of being able to bring some stability to their nervous system, help them continuously build muscle and not be emaciated. And as well, those people who are like have a bigger tendency to go towards anemia and low iron levels. And I'm not saying that either of our herbs have high levels of iron. I don't know if you've tested. I haven't tested yet in terms of that extraction process and how that crosses over into iron content. Have you gone there?
No, I haven't gone there with ashwagandha. It is an interesting herb, though, in the sense that it's not super high in iron. However, and this is my understanding from just reading the research, not necessarily testing a specific ashwagandha myself, but it has been shown to actually stimulate blood production in the body without necessarily having the iron content. So it's almost going one level higher and going in and pushing that button in your body to say, okay, let's make some more blood. To go back to what you were saying with how it can kind of push people to be a little bit more tired in the beginning, it's so fascinating to see this with so many of these adrenal supportive herbs. And we see this with the Jing herbs in the Taoist system, things like Ho Shou Wu and Cordyceps, and even things like Gynostema. They will take you to where you need to go. Long term,
they will pause there, man.
Sure.
Sage, I'm going to pause you there and just go back because the internet connections just started mucking up a little.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if it's because I'm in the den here.
It's good. It gives me a moment to gather my thoughts and speak it out a little bit more eloquently right now.
Are you still there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. Do I have you?
I can hear you on here. I can talk to the story now. The Zoom's not playing along as much.
Yeah, I see you're frozen.
All right, I can see it frozen.
Hey, thanks everybody on Instagram for being patient with us. This is a good chance to meditate a little bit, just be in the moment, wait for things to come as nature plans for them to, not necessarily as we want them to or you want them to. Hang on, Mason, I can hear you on Instagram Live, but I can't hear you on Zoom. Okay, yeah, sure. Hey, everybody on live, we're gonna turn it off for a second, and we'll be going back live in just a minute once we sort things out here. Thanks for your patience.
man, it's really annoying. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, I hear you over there, but your video is frozen again.
Oh man, this feels like a cursed morning. Technologically. Okay, so you're coming through clear-ish now.
Yeah. Okay.
The internet seems fine.
Yeah, you keep freezing up on me. All right.
Okay.
Seem to be flowing nicely now.
Sorry, man.
No worries. Instagram Live round 3.
Yeah. So do you remember where that whole last spiel of yours kind of got?
Yes. So before I was talking about the adaptogenic effects, we were talking about what was the previous thing before that? Do you remember?
The previous thing before that, we were looking at let's have to go back. I mean, might just have to go back and pick it up because I was just in that flow with you.
You were really going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we both were. I mean, I think I finished talking about the fact that it's going to do what it's going to do for your body, what your body needs. You know, it's not going to and so then if it just straight your retort after that, I think it'll be great.
Sure.
I'll say hello on the live.
Okay, invite to join there. There we go. All right, guys, welcome back. We're going for another round of this here. And we thank you for being so patient with us. All right, Mason, you able to join in there?
Yeah.
Hey, there he is. Okay, ashwagandha, round 3. Here we go. So as you were saying, it's so fascinating how these herbs like ashwagandha and things like holy basil, and then going into the Taoist world of the Jing adrenal supportive herbs like Hoshu Wu, Cordyceps, Eucomia, Cistanche, Morinda, Romania, they long-term will give you what they want. They will give you limitless energy, incredible vitality, and a long life where you can really go after all your dreams. In the short term, if you are really depleted, they might give you something the opposite of what you want because you may need to really take some time to rest and recharge. So a lot of people get a little bit confused in the beginning when they read about ashwagandha and its effects for increasing energy and endurance and helping to build muscle and strength output. And they'll start taking it and they'll, whoa, I'm tired. And what's going on here? This is really the opposite of what I was expecting. I'm kind of disappointed. You have to understand that before you can go out and conquer the world, you need to refuel and replenish and tune your engine and do some repair on your body and on your adrenals especially to give you that hormonal and endocrine power to go out and do what you want to do. If you're already burnt out from all ends, you've been really pushing it too hard, you're not going to be able to just take an herb and go out and do amazing things the very next day. So it may take some time of rebuilding and restoring before you get that incredible outward energy effect that you're looking for.
And going back and talking about the anemic and iron levels in ashwagandha. So your like what was your take in terms of the research you've looked at, like iron levels that are contained in ashwagandha and how that's affecting our blood?
So there's a decent amount of iron in ashwagandha. It's not huge, and because your dose is relatively small, percentage-wise, there's a decent amount of iron in there, and it's not the heme iron that you're getting from animal products, so it's not very necessarily bioavailable in terms of comparison to animal iron, but it is going to be supporting your body in triggering it to produce more blood, which is really interesting. So
yeah, I mean, that's like always like, that's
especially for vegans and vegetarians and people who do not have a lot of heme iron coming in their diet, having things like this, and also looking at things like other blood builders like Hoshiwu and astragalus, even spirulina and cacao, and then formulations like ginseng and longan and bupleurum and peony, these classic blood building formulas from the Taoist system. So essential. And I've spoken to so many vegans over the years who are struggling, and you can see it in their complexion and in their energy levels, and they talk about it, and they don't associate it with their diet, or maybe they do, but they're not prepared to give up on their ideology and their ethical stance, which I respect in a way, but it's, you got to be compassionate with yourself at the same time. But at the very least, we can take advantage of these incredible herbs coming from the plant world to rebuild our blood and not let that vitality slip away in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about like getting that ashwagandha deer antler combination going from that same space, like in terms of like, first of all, herbs are going to be able to help with hemoglobin, but then as well, like having herbs going in there, as you said, it's like going one level deeper, not just like getting out of this mentality of like take iron supplements. And generally iron supplements aren't going to be the best. That's why when you go to the modern Western medicine system, the only minerals they're really going to give you are calcium and iron, because, funnily enough, they're very ineffective and they get very stuck. But when you go to herb like ashwagandha, that's actually getting down into kidney spleen tonification and the capacity for the body to build blood, and then get to the like that bone marrow essence when you stand, like especially like in that deer antler and ashwagandha combo for deer antler toning, for bone marrow toning, so that you can produce those red blood cells and hold a count. We're really excited about seeing what's going to be done through like this new source that we've got in terms of getting those levels up and supporting that function. One of the reasons I think ashwagandha is so effective as well, when you look at the energetics, yes, it's a little bit of a heating herb and also a drying herb, but it's really mobilizing of fluidity. And so you see it being used in water retention, edema, and these kind of like, in a similar way to poria. That poria mushroom is used to
it has that drying effect and that spleen effect.
It's exactly. I mean, you like utilizing that spleen effect so that the body can move the water chi, especially if there's any like dampening under the heart, dampening the spirit and taking out the fire from your life, that fire of your spirit, moving that water chi. That's like thanks to actual spleen function, so that then you can move that water physically at the same time. And that's like, I think that factor has a huge bearing on why this is actually able to then allow blood to be built up.
Ah, very interesting perspective. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that as well. I mean, I like about poria as well. I mean, I like sneaking the poria into people's lives. Do you use that much?
It's one, I've used a little bit. I haven't used it as extensively. I know you guys use it in some of your formulations, right? And do you have it also as an individual herb that you guys sell?
No, not yet. It's like, it's not sexy enough yet.
The awareness is not there yet. It's tough because sometimes people like you and I, we get so excited about these individual herbs and we want to share that passion with other people, but sometimes the market isn't ready for it yet. Like we came out with one herb, this Thai herb, blue butterfly flower powder, and it's so incredible, but a lot of people are just, the awareness is not there yet. So it's a tricky thing. We want to be right on the cutting edge and coming out with stuff that nobody is really aware of yet. But we got to find that balance as businessmen as well, you and I, in addition to being, so passionate about the herbs, of finding the balance between bringing out something that's so cutting edge and new and bringing out something that people are going to have some awareness of and interest in.
Yeah, for now, I sneak it into the Mason's mushrooms, and I got to come in a bunch of other formulas that I'm creating at the moment. Just because, look at Taoism, it's like, included, because it moves this water chi, and this is like, and it moves water in the body, same as this ashwagandha. It's like, why is it the king of the herbs in the Ayurvedic system? I think one of those reasons, because everyone's so heavy, everyone's so everyone's so damp, everyone's like, most people have just an absolute lack of digestive fire. And so if that spleen dampness is going to be present, you're going to see that a lot of the time, some of the most prized herbs that are like, ashwagandha is not sneaking in like poria is. I mean, it's one of the most highly used herbs in China, in the Dawa system, as you know. They pretty much, if they have a longevity formula, they've got it in there because it's going to be able to move that water and that stagnation. I think there's like a real similar cross-pollination that's gone on with ashwagandha of like, why is this seen as one of the primary longevity tonics? But of course, then we've got to look at the hormones and what it's doing for toning of the uterus, toning of the semen count. I mean, what's your take on that whole side of things?
So as the research has indicated, that the effect on semen specifically and on male reproductive health seems to be an indirect effect, as a matter of fact. And it seems to come from the decrease in stress and the increase in adaptability that then allows the body to go back to its normal healthy semen production and generate greater reproductive health. So, and this is really interesting because when you start to look at the hormone and the endocrine system, it's so interconnected. Everything from the blood sugar to the thyroid to stress, it all interconnects in a really interesting way. And it kind of comes back to the fact that when you're stressed and you're producing cortisol, your body prioritizes the production of cortisol over the production of any other hormone. It's basic evolutionary biology. If there's a tiger coming after you, your body's not going to be worried about producing longevity and anti-aging hormones and hormones to make you more beautiful and better at having sex. It's going to be producing one hormone, the one to get you out of there alive, and you can worry about the rest of it later. So in our modern world, of course, we live in very artificial environments and artificial situations where we tend to fall into chronic stress, for a wide variety of reasons. And when you're under chronic stress, you're doing cortisol all the time, and your body is not going to be producing enough of the other hormones. So you get on something like ashwagandha, gets you out of that cortisol-dependent state where you're always just running stressed, and you become calmer, more peaceful. You don't necessarily become too relaxed, but because you still can have good energy, but you can just handle everything without relying on cortisol secretion. And blood sugar plays into it too, and ashwagandha is good for balancing blood sugar, because when your blood sugar gets low, similarly, your body's going to secrete more cortisol, prioritize that over the other hormones, so you don't pass out. The people ancestrally who didn't do that, who didn't have that function built in, they passed out, they got eaten by a tiger. They didn't survive to pass their genes on to the next generation. That's how that gets, built into our DNA. So when you have something that's going to balance your blood sugar and decrease your stress, it's really just setting the stage for your endocrine system to do what it's supposed to do. And it plays into the thyroid function there as well. When you have a healthy thyroid, the rest of your endocrine system works better. You don't need to run on cortisol as much. And when your stress is lower, then your thyroid can come back up and behave better. And ashwagandha is even really good for Hashimoto's, which a lot of thyroid herbs you have to be careful about with Hashimoto's because it can cause things to fluctuate around. It's an autoimmune condition, but ashwagandha seems to be very effective.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the main, that's in the branding of ashwagandha. It's like the thyroid herb, which I'm liking, seeing as well. But again, it blows out when you look at Hashimoto's, and when you look at stress on the body, when you look at building semen up in the body, and it's been used traditionally all through Africa, especially through Africa, because it's through that dry subtropic region of the world. So we get it from the north of India there. You see that just traditionally, first of all, it's been used as a poultice to pack into ulcers. It's been used for ulcerated gastrointestinal tract. It's wide, women who are having a lot of miscarriages, it gets used to go in and tone the uterus. It's real wide, kind of folky sort of application. But then you look what's actually happening everywhere. If anyone's got chronic weakness, boom, they've got it in the diet. And they're if they have a tendency constitutionally to weakness, boom, you got to go in there. And of course, what's weakness? And going to if you're not able to go and diagnose Hashimoto's or thyroid issues or hormonal issues, you're going to see that that's generally what would have been happening traditionally. But then you also see that it's been used across the board to help men become fertile. And it's interesting because I was wondering if I just hadn't been able to find any clinical studies on the active ingredients of ashwagandha actually having a direct lifting effect of semen count. But it makes sense. It just kind of talks to just how potent this is as a Jing herb. and as a hormonal modulating herb to be able to go in and really restore to the point where the body's going to be able to lower cortisol to a point, and then it's going to be able to rejuvenate function of kidneys, etc., to the point where it's going to be notable everywhere that your semen count rises when you take this, or if you're a woman, your fertility and your uterine strength is going to rise when you take this. I think a lot comes down to immunity as well. I mean, I want to get back to the hypothyroid issues, but one thing that was interesting of course it's an immune modulator, and it's kind of like, it's not at the medicinal mushroom level, not quite at the astragalus level, but it's like up there. Like, I think massively, like I saw one study, this is quite anecdotal, so like I'll find the study and put it in the notes, but they gave it was like a group of like 50 folks with rheumatoid arthritis, and they're on like 5 grams a day, and I don't know how long they were on it for. It would have had to be like months, and they had like a 25% remission rate from rheumatoid arthritis just through ashwagandha, and so again you start seeing like well, it's interesting because ashwagandha doesn't have like the immune stimulating stigma around it yet, and it's more of a calming immune modulator. Might almost be like a better approach to get on if you've got like these issues where your immune system's either, because it's used to efficiency and it's used in overactivity,
right?
Both clinically and also in life, where you get on a herb like that, and all of a sudden you're going to be starting hitting receptors and nourishing your stress levels to the point, where your immune system's going to be able to modulate itself. So I think, like, as you're saying, like, it just hits it from so many angles. You go endocrine, it's like working directly as like a nervine, and it's like somewhat of an adaptogenic sedative. Yet it's rejuvenating all that muscle, and then it's getting into the immune system and doing some amazing modulating there. Back on the thyroid issue, is there, do you use, I know people are asking you about hypothyroidism all the time and Hashimoto's. Have you got any insight as to why this herb is working outside of like the fact that it creates an entirely more healthy environment?
Yeah, no, I'm not incredibly well versed on the exact pharmacokinetics of what it is in the ashwagandha. There are several active compounds in there, but the exact method of action, I'm not an expert in. But it's just, another thing that makes ashwagandha really the herb for our modern times, where so many people either have diagnosed clinical hypothyroidism, or way more people even have subclinical undiagnosed hypothyroidism, where they have just burnt themselves out a bit and it's taken a toll on their thyroid, or they've had a lot of soy in their diet, or they've been using things like parabens and phthalates in their personal care products for so many years that's blocked up their thyroid, or they've been exposed to radiation. And so these things all take a toll on the thyroid, and so people don't really know what's going on, because a regular doctor might look at it and say, and just test one of the multiple thyroid hormones and say, yeah, you're fine, you're within the relevant range, where you're relatively healthy. But most real thyroid experts will tighten that range down a lot. And not only that, they want to look at many other thyroid hormones. You want to look at T3, T4, reverse T3, T3 uptake, TSH. You got to test for the thyroid antibodies. There's so much more involved that most general practitioners are not even going to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So to be preemptively on an adaptogenic herb like ashwagandha, that whether or not you have a thyroid issue is going to be protecting you from developing one, and manifesting so many other benefits in other areas of your health. It's as you say, it's a no-brainer, all harder.
Yeah, absolutely no-brainer, all harder. I'm pretty stoked that I'm gonna have like a free-flowing supply of like an ashwagandha that I'm like, stoked on the source, and I'm like, it's always in the back of my mind in terms of my motivation in bringing these herbs out. I'm looking forward to getting my mum further onto it as well. She's dealing with the traumatic brain injury from the aneurysm, and suffers insomnia from that. It's like in that application, it's one of the herbs I want to be using there. And I can just see as well, like, you look at her and she's got a disability. This is another instance I like to like really make distinct for people in herbalism. She's not on medication and a lot of that, but I've got to be like really on the front foot. So whether it's you're caring for someone or caring for yourself, just because you're not showing these signs of disease, or like little disorders, or you're not like showing these symptoms, like insomnia is a little bit of a symptom there. Not chronic though. It would be very easy to skate over. But when you get a little, clue, you don't want to treat yourself like you see, but you want to treat like that's like an exciting little insight. And then what's the, having you grab onto that and sink your teeth into it and use herbs and practices and, technologies in order to really ensure that you can just not slide back. You want to keep the body, or the level of symptom at bay. And so that's one of the reasons I'm excited to get ashwagandha there. But I also think it's going to be one of these herbs, including like the CBDs and everything else that we're doing in the grounding technologies and the no blue light at night. I think it's going to be one of those herbs where the level of integration that it creates between the body and the mind. So when that happens, the herb doesn't do it, your body does it. Process information, process emotions, because you're not disjointed and disconnected from your heart, from your body, and from your mind.
And lowering blood glucose as well is essential. And if you have elevated blood glucose, not only does it put you at more risk for diabetes, but it's essentially shortening your life. You're going to be having more glycation and aging and cross-linking in the DNA as your cells replicate. And good quality sleep, good deep sleep is essential for lowering blood glucose. So it plays out in so many ways.
Do you like ashwagandha at night? Does it work for you?
I find timing of these things is funny, and I find this with CBD as well. I find that to get sleep benefit from ashwagandha, this is just my personal experience. For me to get sleep benefit from ashwagandha, I have to take it between 11 a.m. and 12 noon. And that will benefit my sleep. I get the same thing with CBD, interestingly. Taking it at night right before sleep, it doesn't somehow, the way the metabolism of it works doesn't kick in fast enough for me. But if I take it late morning, then the sleep of that coming night really benefits.
I'm kind of similar. I don't love having it at night. It doesn't work so much for me, but I feel like because I've got such my nervous system tends towards getting really fired up and overwhelmed. I like having things to relax me at the start of the day. I really like having reishi and ashwagandha. And I quite often, like our friend Sebastian, who owns Clearlight Saunas here in Australia, he's often like, "Oh, you have saunas in the morning. I don't understand it." Like, you'd be so tired, the nervous system gets so down-regulated, but I need that to be optimal normally. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like, this morning I had a really good, nice strong ashwagandha, deer antler, and lion's mane hot chocolate with tremella to cream it up. And feeling wonderful. Like, I'm feeling pumped. I feel like you sometimes need to navigate to not allow the relaxed that state, because as soon as any kind of nervous system relaxation emerges, people associate that with needing to shut off and go rest rather than working sustainably in a way that isn't frantic. I found that for my own experience as well. And so that's one of the, a lot of people listening to this, they might be, like my mum. I think I'm going to a nice tonic with reishi and ashwagandha at night is going to be like a wonderful way for her to down-regulate. Need something more direct. Whereas others, you might need to try at other times of the day. You might even at times in the beginning, as you're getting back on track, you might need to find that you'll need to play around with ashwagandha for a while to find that place where it exists within your diet. Because as you said, if you take nice small doses, you'll probably be fine. You'll skate through, But if you start taking a few higher doses, start getting to like that half teaspoon dose of an extract of the root, you're going to start, you'll feel if you're out of balance, it'll start to bring you back into balance. And
take you where you need to be.
Yeah, it'll take you where you need to be. How are you having it? You're just having it in your chocolate normally?
So we've got it in chocolates, but I don't eat chocolate every day. And this is just me personally. I really enjoy having maybe 1 or 2 bars of chocolate a week. I find that just the whole experience and flavor and mouth-wise, like not having it for a couple of days and then having it makes it way richer of an experience than having it every day. But we do use it in 4 out of our 6 different chocolates, and we do different functional chocolates rather than different flavors. So that speaks to the number of different functional benefits that ashwagandha has. But for me, I'm just adding into different foods. I'll sprinkle some on top of a salad. I will just add it to whatever I'm doing. And that's a little bit unique to me personally, I think, because I don't mind when things taste weird. And we import an ashwagandha extract that is not, it is very potent. It does have a high level of withanolicides, but it's not.
Could you explain what withanolicides, the active ingredient?
Yeah. So it has high levels of these active ingredients, but it's not overwhelmingly flavorful. So I'm able to kind of mix it into more different things. But It's also really nice to do it in tonics. The flavor combines so nicely with chocolate. They have such a great synergy together. I think it's kind of a nice marriage of Asia and South America.
Yeah, I like your ashwagandha. I like having your chocolates with it. I feel like it's got a really nice normalizing effect. So that active ingredient, I always have a fun time saying this, withanolides, they are flavonoids. And so basically, like a high amount of the benefits that are attributed to ashwagandha are attributed to these flavonoids. I really like having standardized ones that are like have a higher amount standardized of that active ingredient. Superfeast isn't standardized, so you're going to be seeing it sitting there between that 2 and 3% because, just like fluctuating.
That's
basically.
still great percentage-wise. That's fantastic. And sometimes you don't want some of the really, really high percentages because those often are extracted with chemical solvents like hexane and methane, and there's residues of those left over, and the companies may not even know that their supplier is using these kind of solvents because they don't bother to put it on the paperwork or anything like that. They just use it. They say, okay, we have 8% withanolicides. Wow, look how cool we are. There's problems. It's not good.
Well, and that's how I always felt when I would take an extract when I was really doing a lot of research for Superfeast. I've got a lot of standardized medicinal mushrooms at 30% polysaccharides, and I tried a lot of ashwagandha with that, standardized 8%. And what I felt, and I've really attributed it down to, is that because it wasn't in a full spectrum extract manner, so you don't have the full natural ratio of that batch and that crop coming through, including all the active ingredients that haven't been discovered yet in that cosmic land-based ratio, my organs and my mind, my nervous system couldn't ongoingly really uptake the information of what we're taking in here when it was standardized because it was disjointed just a little bit. And so the ones that weren't standardized, I didn't even realize it, but after a while, the ones that weren't standardized is what I'd continue to be attracted to. And the ones that were standardized, I stopped being attracted to very quickly, just because on an energetic level, I don't think I was able to pick up the signature. And because I'm going for, as you are, long-term usage for people with tonic herbs. We're not just trying to sell people on solving a problem. It's like, let's talk in 50 years after you've been taking ashwagandha as a part of your diet, and then we're getting somewhere. That's why I kind of fell on that side of the fence of, first of all, making sure that it was independent farmers and not a big business owning all the farmers and buying it all up and telling them to maximize their farming efforts and cut corners so that we can scrape it from the bottom line. It's an independent farmer who's relying on, from his particular point of view, the quality being the absolute best. And so DDAO in areas, for us Northern India regions, where you're going to get the maximum cosmic land and atmospheric energy going into that herb, then pick out, vet it, make sure you got nice healthy roots, gnarly ones, ones that are looking good, it's all good, baby. And then get a full spectrum extract going. We're just doing a water extract because I just feel like that's all that's really needed. It's such a water soluble herb, and all the active ingredients are, from my perspective anyway. And so, it's very common for Ayurvedic herbs to be water extracted. Yeah, it's a water extract happy system. So, bro, any other I wouldn't mind singing the praises just a little bit on the studies, and I could probably find this one as well on cardiovascular health and especially cholesterol levels and it modulating cholesterol levels and not being aggressive in taking down LDL, the bad cholesterol, but seeing that it's actually it's been shown clinically to be quite normalizing to cholesterol levels. You got anything on that?
Yeah, I don't have off the top of my head specific studies to reference. I wish I could, but I probably need to take more ashwagandha and expand my neural net and get some more neuritic regeneration going on before I can remember those. But it is really incredible in that way, and then it's just bringing cholesterol levels down to within a healthy range. It's not single directional. This is the amazing benefits of it being such an incredible adaptogenic herb, because cholesterol is essential. You need cholesterol for healthy hormones. It's what all your hormones get built out of. You need cholesterol for your brain. And the well-being of your brain and the well-being of your hormone endocrine system are two of the most impactful things in your entire life experience. So some people think, okay, I need to cut out all, and most people are awakening from this, but they think I need to cut out all forms of cholesterol. I need to not have any saturated fat. This is kind of the thinking of the 80s and 90s, right? And even you go fat-free, whereas you need this. It is essential to life. It's a core part of what your body runs on.
I think we're past that. I think it's still hanging on. I get the feeling it's going to get like a resurgence soon because like, and I think that because the ketogenic world, whenever you see the pendulum swing so far in one direction, I think all the studies are going to come proving, I've talked about this previously on podcasts, I think with Dan, talking about like what happens when you saturate your liver with fat and actually what kind of gases and compounds you're going to be creating when you and that go on to causing leaky gut syndrome, which is why I think I see so many people coming out of ketogenic diet getting, like, as it was with veganism, such short-term, incredible, amazing, shredded benefits, and then bang, and then like exhaustion creeps in.
It all runs out.
The digestion actually absolutely goes to shit, and it's just like, you know, the same story. And so I'm like, we're all fat, and hopefully the pendulum doesn't swing too far back in that direction where fat's evil, and we just get some really nice distinctions of like, all right, everyone, you're done? You're done with your experiment? Okay, cool. Now what's like a real optimal level? Fat's a piece of the pie, not something to completely put all your, you know, bet all your money on. Anyway, I think that's
so while you were saying that, I found the study I was trying to remember, and it showed that there was a 10% decrease approximately in total cholesterol when ashwagandha was ingested, which seems to happen interestingly in all people, whether they have high cholesterol or not. It's just still regulating it down to a healthy range.
I mean, this is the whole nature of tonic herbalism, Rasayanas. Get on a herb that's actually going to be able to get you in. Like, it's not a therapy. So if you have high cholesterol, you're going to have to look at your lifestyle. You're going to have to look at the diet. You're going to have to have a nice long look in the mirror and decide, do I want that face to be looking at me in 20, 50, 80 years? And do I want it to be incredibly saggy and not have a twinkle in its eye? Or do I want it to be like absolutely bursting with vibrancy and youth? And then you need to transform your life, and then you can start making sure your lifestyle is really attuned to it, and, you know, attuned to your passions. And then as a nice little supporter, you bring your tonic herbal, Rasayana, adaptogenic herbal friends in there to really ride off the back of that intention and support it. And it's nice to then, of course, you want to stay regulated and healthy without having to think about symptoms and go on statins and all that kind of shit. Because once you start getting the doctors hooked, you know, doctors are magic, of course, in their particular type of healing. Well, most of them are. I don't want to generalize too much because I know those out there that are like absolutely telling some whoppers. But once the hook's in you in terms of drugs, unless you're super aware, it's hard to get that hook off. It's really
once you start it, it's hard, and it's especially true with thyroid medication. It's kind of like once you're on it, you're basically on it for life. Even if you try to, you know, turn around and take a supernatural approach, you become very dependent on it in terms of your metabolism. And you're mentioning like total life quality and life experience. I just wanted to share one of my favorite studies that I've come across with ashwagandha, and so they had a group of stressed people take ashwagandha 300 milligrams a day for 60 days. And they had them take a general health and well-being questionnaire. And they found that pretty much across the board, they had improvements in what they refer to as social functioning. And they saw a 68.1% reduction in social dysfunction, whereas the placebo group actually increased in social dysfunction. And then on a larger dose of 2 grams a day, they saw with this group of people that they found themselves not so stressed in social situations and saw improved social functionality and romantic functionality and overall well-being. So it's just like in terms of being able to connect with other people and really increase the quality of your connection with your community and the quality of life, it's incredible.
That's incredible. I mean, like, right, you break that down to, I mean, like, of course, you know, improved sex life. We know why that's going to be happening because you've got, like, you know, you've actually got the stress off the body so you can create those fun sex hormones.
And you can connect. You're not stuck in your head. You can like be present and be in the moment and really connect with your partner. I
mean, just the fact that this is essentially a nootropic that we're talking about, right? Like it doesn't really get touted as a nootropic. I mean, and it's one of these things that like most herbs, you know, tonic herbs don't get touted as nootropics on that same level as nicotine and all those other synthetic ones because it doesn't give you that rush. But this is like, again, like having a sustainable, nourished brain function when you're looking at the fact that you're actually, what I think is socially, what my mind goes to, I don't know whether I'm being facetious or actually like, you know, like in trying to explain that. When you don't have an immune system, subconsciously, you're going to be suspicious of going out and meeting new people because you don't know what viral load, you know, I don't know, it's just me being paranoid, but you don't know what people are hanging on to. So there's like, if you don't have that protection, that Wi Chi and that that bone marrow base, that lymph tissue base, that spleen based capacity for immunity, all things which ashwagandha are really helping to tone, you're going to be a little bit on your back foot subconsciously. And so that's one of the things I like to see: immunity, bringing people together, making you a better chatter at a party by having a non-white bread flabby.
Pick up some microbes from other people, diversify your microbiome. It's like having probiotics, but and also, the same goes for when your adrenals are really depleted. If you're in a very vulnerable state of health, whether with your immunity or your endocrine system, you are at risk at any moment of being completely destroyed and basically dying. And if you're in that state, you're going to be stressed and you're going to be scared. And both of those things are going to have a further negative impact on the well-being of your immunity and the well-being of your adrenals. So it's this very negative cycle that people can fall into of fear leading to worse health, poor health leading to fear, leading to worse health, leading to fear. And you got to get in there with something that's going to give you some momentum in the other direction, to push you in a direction of positivity. And ashwagandha can really help. You got to figure out how you're going to turn the ship around.
I love it, man. Everyone out there, you should get on ashwagandha. Whether you jump over Addictive Wellness, get one. Which of the chocolates is it in?
Yeah, so we have, and real quick, but before we say everyone should take it, I just want to talk about a couple people.
Yeah, that's a good point. I shouldn't be so fantastical about it.
I know we get excited, we get passionate, right? So if you're pregnant and it hasn't been tested in long-term pregnancy studies, so if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, better to just wait. It's something to look forward to in the future. And if you have hyperthyroidism, if you have overactive thyroid, it can be too stimulating for the thyroid. So better to not take it if you're in that situation as well. But so we have it in our Tranquility chocolate and our Energy chocolate, both because it helps you be peaceful and also helps with energy and endurance. And then we have it in our Focus chocolate for its nootropic effects and for its long-term neuroprotective effects. And then let's see, I feel like I'm missing one. Oh no, we used to have a Femininity chocolate, which we then turned into a Recharge chocolate. So it could have benefits for men and women. But the Femininity chocolate had it in there because it's so wonderful for the female endocrine system.
Yeah, for the female endocrine system, I would absolutely just throw the ashwagandha hat in the ring for one to try and bring into your life. You're nervous, if you want to work on your sleep, if you want to work on your sexual potency, it's one to get into. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming and nerding out about it with me.
Thank you, Mason. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's always a pleasure chatting with you guys. And I really appreciate you having me on.